Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of the Team Daddy Weekly Recap. I am your host, Shapiro the Hero, aka Daddy Dreidels. After a brief one-week hiatus, I am back with all your Team Daddy updates, and a lot has happened since we last spoke. We've had shakeups in the standings, both at the top and the bottom, and a win streak that has one team looking like a championship contender with 5 weeks left before the playoffs. As always, I'll take you around the league looking at scores and those aforementioned standings right after this word from our sponsor. This week's sponsor is Spirit Airlines. When you want world-class travel to top-notch destinations, look somewhere else. Spirit Airlines offers low-cost airfare to exotic destinations like Fort Myers and the ever-popular Indianapolis. Want a seat? You'll have to pay. Bringing any luggage? Make sure you tap that card or you can kiss it goodbye. No wonder they're bankrupt. Catch the spirit of Spirit Airlines. We'll kick off this week's recap with our hottest team, Big John, taking on Jed in a potential playoff preview. But for this Week 9 matchup, it was Big John emerging victorious, coming away with a 198.5 to 108.4 win over Jed. T. Higgins led the scoring for Big John with 44.1 points, and Big John also got 36.1 points from Rico Dowdle. But the big story here is that our gentle giant put up the most points in the league this week, earning himself $20 to go along with his now 5-game winning streak. On the other sideline, Jed was led by Lamar Jackson with 35.6 points, but outside of JSN, only saw one other player score 10 points or better. Now at 5-4, Jed is still securely in a playoff spot for now, but would definitely love to try to put some space between himself and the cutoff. He will try to do just that in Week 10 when he faces off against Zach. Meanwhile, Big John improves to 7-2, and is looking pretty unbeatable right about now. He will go for his 6th win in a row next week when he takes on George. Speaking of George, he got back in the win column this week, thanks to a 151.9 to 112.25 win over Brett. It was Jared Goff leading the way for George with 30.2 points, and he also saw 25.1 points apiece from Jamar Chase and Marvin Harrison Jr. George absolutely needed that win in order to keep pace with the other borderline playoff teams, as his record will be the only thing that gets him into the postseason. More on that later. As for Brett, despite getting 26.4 points from Kyron Williams, he drops his 3rd game in a row. It's been a hard fall from grace for Brett since the loss of Omarion Hampton, who will be out until at least Week 12. Can Brett hang on long enough to benefit from a triumphant return, or will it be too little too late? Brett currently sits at 4-5 and will try to reverse his current trend in a Week 10 showdown versus Kyle. Meanwhile, George is now also 4-5 after a much-needed win of his own this week. He will try for 2 in a row next week when he takes on Big John. Looking now at another serious playoff contender, Steve faced off against Swans this week, trying to put together another winning streak and keep pace with Big John. Alas, it was not to be, as Swans took down Steve 164.55 to 143.3. Christian McCaffrey led the scoring for Swans with 42.3 points, and Swans also got 33.55 points from Josh Allen. After losing 5 in a row and 6 of his last 7, Swans needed a win in the worst way and was rewarded with his 3rd victory of the year. On the other sideline, Steve was led by Sam Darnold with 45.5 points, but could not find enough offense elsewhere to repeat last week's massive success. Now at 6-3, Steve is still comfortably in a playoff spot for now, but has his eyes set on that 1 seed. He will try to take a step toward that top spot next week when he takes on PJ. Meanwhile, Swans is now 3-6 and hoping that this win will be the spark that ignites his comeback from the basement. He will try for his 2nd win in as many weeks when he faces off against Josh in Week 10. Turning now to the younger Swans, Kyle and I faced off this week in a matchup that literally came down to the last play of Monday Night Football. But when the clock ran out, I had just barely squeaked by with a 167.55 to 166.55 win over Kyle. Poor Kyle really does have the worst luck in the league this season. He's lost 4 of his last 5 games, but his last 3 losses have been by a combined 1.8 points. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad for the win this week, but I really do feel for the guy. Anyway, let's get into this matchup. I was led by Drake London with 46.3 points, and I also got 30.45 points from Jacoby Brissett on Monday night to steal a win. Maybe this will be a turning point for my season, who knows? As for Kyle, he actually had the highest scoring player of the week in Brock Bowers with 50.3 points, but as previously mentioned, drops another heartbreaker. No need to hash it out anymore. Kyle is now 3-6 and hoping his luck will change soon. He will take on Brett next week in hopes of turning things around. As for my team, I am now 4-5 after back-to-back wins, and I'll try to make it 3 in a row next week when I take on Armenti. Speaking of Armenti, he took a hard L against Zach this week, losing 175.95 to 121.95. Kyle Monangai led the scoring for Zach with 31.8 points, and Zach also got 24.5 from Devontae Adams. It was a solid overall team win for Zach this week, as only one player on his team scored less than 9 points. As for Armenti, he was led by Matthew Stafford with 37.65 points, but ends up losing not just the game, he will also be without star tight end Tucker Kraft for the remainder of the year. Another interesting note with this matchup, both Zach and Armenti had players who scored higher than Brock Bowers, but both were left on their respective benches, meaning both teams missed out on $10, with Zach losing out on an extra 20 for what could have been the highest scoring team of the week. Either way, Armenti drops to 4-5 and will try to rebound against me next week. Meanwhile, Zach improves to 6-3 on the year and will try to get his momentum back after a white-hot start to the season. He will take on Jed in Week 10 in a crucial game for the top half of the standings. Our final matchup of the week pitted PJ against Josh, with both teams trending in opposite directions. PJ came in off a tough loss against me in Week 8, while Josh entered this one riding a 2-game win streak. And when the final whistle blew, that win streak increased to 3 games, as Josh defeated PJ 142.4 to 123.9. Josh was led by Michael Pittman with 28.5 points, and he also got 22.5 from Josh Jacobs. Despite leaving an injured Kayshon Boutte in his starting lineup, Josh was able to get back above 500 with this win. As for PJ, he was led by Justin Herbert with 34.2 points, but comes up short despite setting an optimal lineup. Now at 3-6, PJ is definitely in a better spot than he was to start the season, but still find himself with a long way to go. He will take on Steve in Week 10 as he tries to right the ship. Meanwhile, Josh is now 5-4 and currently the second hottest team in the league. And Josh, this might be the only time anybody ever associates you with being hot, so please, I hope you enjoy it. Jokes aside, Josh will face off against Swans next week with both teams fighting for their playoff lives. Which leads nicely into our team dating standings, and here they are as of Week 9. Big John is at the top half at 7-2, riding a 5-game heater. Behind him are Steve and Zach at 6-3, followed by the Riotica twins at 5-4. Next up we have Armenti, myself, Brett, and George, all at 4-5 with points scored being the difference between a playoff spot and the consolation bracket. Finally, we have Kyle, PJ, and Swans, all at 3-6, but definitely not out of playoff contention by any means. As injuries pile up and bye weeks limit rosters, every game is crucial, and setting the right lineup cannot be understated. And on a personal note, I would like to once again apologize for missing last week. It will not happen again. Thank you as always for watching. This has been your Team Daddy Weekly Recap. I am your host, Shapiro the Hero, and I will see you next time. L'chaim, motherfuckers!